Hey guys, here today with another Shirogorov knife video. Today we have in front of us a MiniQuantum. Now this is a full custom version of the MiniQuantum. I've done videos previously on the sprint run and also the custom division. If you're interested, definitely would recommend you take a look at those. Especially since I explain a lot of the features, especially in the sprint run video regarding the RCS rotating clip system, which I'll touch on, of course, in the this video as well in the full custom, since that in the sprint run is the only one that has it. But again, a lot of size comparison stuff already covered in that video as well. The MiniQuantum is Sergey's latest design, debuted last year at Blade Show 2022. And unlike pretty much every other model in the Shirogorov lineup, the MiniQuantum is indeed pretty much a shrunken down version of the full-size Quantum. Now, what do I mean by that? And what about the Neon and the F95? Now, the F95, of course, is the standard full-size model from Shirogorov. The Neon, while a lot of people say is pretty much a shrunken down version, we do have differences in the handle shape and the blade shape. Flipper tab, clip design, all that's pretty much different. MiniQuantum actually has a different clip design as well, but I digress. They are different in terms of the blade and handle shape. When it comes to the MiniQuantum, we really are looking at a pretty much shrunken down version of the full-size Quantum here. While there are some differences to the handle milling and of course some features on the blade, you can see, of course, where the namesake comes from. The Quantum blade shape and the handle shape are pretty much preserved. And that really makes sense. You know, if Sergey was going to make this kind of Persian style blade, you really would just have to take what he's done with the Quantum. It's just so iconic compared to the other Shirogorov knives, and so unique compared to the Shirogorov knives, I think, when it comes to the blade shape. Moving on, let's go ahead and take a look at the coin first. Actually, first I want to say thank you to my friend for sending this in. Again, the full customs are really hard to find. I can't possibly own all of them as much as I want to. Hopefully someday I'll own one of each. But until then, really appreciate my friends sending in their knives for me to take a look at, and also if they need any help with them as well. As you can see here, this is a MiniQuantum. If we take a look, the blade is a scratched mirror S110V blade, S110V being the kind of very common mono steel for these new thin knives, such as the MiniQuantum and the Taihatium. We also have a handle that is made out of titanium and Ticron, Ticron being kind of a Russian analog of Timascus or Mokutai. We also have the pivot system here, DRRBS, combined with the PLDS 2.0 system, or pivot load distribution system, which we'll talk about later on in the video. You see here it's signed by Sergey and dated on May of 2022 last year. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the size comparison again. Actually, let's put all of the knives out here. As you can see, we have the Quantum and the MiniQuantum. We also have the F95 in the same size range as the full-size Quantum, and then we have the Neon in the same size range as the MiniQuantum. You can see here the Stellar would slot in right between, but just like the Neon and the F95, the MiniQuantum and the Quantum share that same size reduction. Moving on to the, let's take a look here at the length of the knife. You can see here that we probably are expecting very similar dimensions to the Neon. I do know that the Quantum, the full-size Quantum blade is a little bit longer than the F95, so I expect the MiniQuantum would be a little bit longer than the Neon as well. And if you take a look here, yeah, so just about 1/8 of an inch longer than the Neon blade, which is around 3.5. This is 3 and, wow, I'm really bad at math here, 5/8 of an inch. And taking a look at the open length, we are looking at just a little under 7 3/4. And closed, we should be around the same size as the Neon here at just a little bit, actually right around 4.5 inches. Now let's take a look at the weight here. I'm expecting this knife to be quite light, lighter than the sprint run version as well. since that does have a copper backspacer and clip, probably closer to the custom division version of the MiniQuantum, but you can see here 3.08 ounces, just a hair over 3 ounces. Quite an incredibly light knife, as expected from that super thin blade stock, the thin handle. You know, we have some Tychron Mokutai's Timascus here on the back, but that's pretty much it in terms of heavy materials here. Now let's take a look at the blade. The blade here is, again, a 3mm blade stock thickness of S110V, done in that scratched mirror finish. I actually really like this iteration of the scratched mirror. Now, I've seen some other knives in scratched mirror where there aren't as many scratches. You would think that you would get kind of a more appealing finish where there's more of the mirror showing, but I actually think that if you're going to do the scratch mirror, there should be enough scratches where it kind of looks like a stone wash, and that's really the effect that you get here. From, you know, far enough distance, it kind of looks like a very, very high polished stone wash. You know, comparing that to the smoked mirror finish, you can see the difference here. You can see the finish is a little bit smoky and hazy, as opposed to the scratch mirror finish where we actually have scratches just like you would see on a normal tumbled blade. Now, another thing, of course, that you'll notice, and this is on all of the MiniQuantum models from Custom Division, Sprint Run, and the full custom, we have this, what they call the pierced fuller. Basically, it just means a fully skeletonized cutout in the blade. We have one in the fuller area, which we see on the full-size Quantum, and we also have it on the flipper tab area as well. Now, taking a look at the top of the blade, I just want to point out, again, just like all the full customs done in whatever mirror finish, we have really nice polishing on all facets of the blade here. The top of the spine, the flipper tab, the plunge grind, satin flats on the blade flats, of course, but man, yeah, those polished, the mirror finishing really catches the light. And with all of the angles on this blade, really makes for an impressive knife to look at in the light. One thing I did want to point out as well is the jimping here. The jimping seems to be of that older style, or what we see on, say, like the Ursus here. Really love this style of jimping. This older style of jimping has great traction. Of course, it might not look as aesthetically pleasing as what you see on like the Zero knives or like what's on the Taihatium full custom, but I think for a knife that you're going to carry and use, this is optimal. Taking a look at the handle, you can see here we have this really nice plain titanium handle. Just like the other versions of the MiniQuantum, we have this indentation here that is very close to the shape of your finger here, at least in terms of the angle. You can see here how it matches my thumb at least. And it is done in this concave milling, which is a stark contrast to what you see on some of the older full customs where we have kind of concave milling outwards. Oh, sorry, convex milling outwards. This concave milling first started with the Hati magnetic, I believe, and then we started seeing it on some other models as well. These super thin models. Really nice to see that continue here on the MiniQuantum. It kind of just adds another dimension of thinness to this knife, which is already thin enough with that 3mm blade stock. You can see here we also have this very nice milling here done the inside. Because of that contouring, different parts of it kind of catch the light at the same time. This milling pattern is slightly different than what we see on the Sprint Run and the Custom Division, but that's a common trend where Sergey will kind of mix up the milling patterns for the full customs and have them be different than what's on the Custom Divisions. Again, just like the Sprint Run though and the Custom Division, we do have this nice micro milling that spans the across the handle here on the front portion of this kind of faux bolster type design. Take a look real carefully in the light here. You can see the really fine milling, much finer than even say the silk milling that Suregrove has used on their other knives. We also have this raised portion here. There's no pivot collar on this knife, but this raised titanium portion effectively functions as a pivot collar, just kind of a nice aesthetic touch. Another thing I wanted to point out is the use of the large pivot screw here. Now the large pivot screw isn't anything new. Of course, we're even starting to see it in production knives. The only place where we aren't really seeing those new larger screws is on some of the more budget-minded knives, such as the Ursus. But interestingly, the Custom Division and the Sprint Run are using the old smaller screw type design, but the full Custom MiniQuantum is using that full-sized, large, more modern screw design, which is, I think, a really nice touch, something to differentiate the knife. You can see here it is that 3D pivot with the facets on both sides of the duckfoot design, and also that really nice kind of bright satin finished top flat part of the screw. Actually, I love that screw design so much. I actually had it done on my F7. Originally, it had kind of a screw design like this, flat duckfoot. Had it upgrade to the really nice 3D one. Moving on to the back side of the knife here, you can see very interesting pivot screw design, which I'll talk about in a little bit with the PLDS system. But moving on to the back here, you can see we have that RCS rotating clip system. Now, a lot of people, especially when this had first debuted at Blade Show, Sergey actually posted a video on his Instagram demonstrating how it worked. I actually had filmed that video. It took so many retries. Sergey just wasn't happy with it, and I didn't know what was going on, but eventually we captured the video the way he liked it. But anyways, kind of going off topic. A lot of people really didn't understand the system. I kind of explained it in my video on the Sprint Run, but basically, you know, it's quite ergonomic. A lot of people think that you know, you have to kind of do something funky to get the knife on your pocket, but as you can see here, this clip has this nice angled pad here on the front. This is not an aesthetic thing. It's actually very functional in how you are going to actuate the clip. But as you can see here, the clip also has this arrow that's milled in. That's actually very interestingly milled in. It's kind of part of the milling pattern on the clip, and those shapes kind of help form the arrow here in the middle. You can see here that the high points of the clip, including the arrow and the back here located, you know, around the screw, is actually done in this kind of nice burnished finish here, which is kind of nice. But anyways, you go ahead and while you're inserting the clip in your pocket, the knife in your pocket, you usually have a knife like this. You go ahead and you close it, and you're going to put in your pocket. You then instead kind of grab it back here and push down, and that's how you actuate the clip. You can see here it's spring loaded, and it's captured by this ceramic ball detent. It also has this ramp so the clip can ride up. You go ahead, push it down, put it into your pocket, and then let go, and then the spring-loaded clip will go ahead and spring back on. Now, there are a lot of benefits to this. One, it allows the clip to overcome really thick items, right? Like if you have some denim with really thick seams here up at the top, instead of, you know, trying to wrestle in and trying to jam the knife in, you go ahead, just push down, insert the knife in, and let go, and then the clip will basically ride over the material. It also helps to have a very secure retention system. Now, with normal clips here, you know, this is going to have to bend back and forth, and we have a contact patch on the clip right here. Can't get a good angle, but right here, and that basically, that contact with the frame allows the knife to stay clipped in and not move. However, there has to be some kind of resistance. There can't be too much resistance or too much tension on the clip, because then you wouldn't be able to pull it out. However, you can have a great deal of tension between the frame and the clip here, since the only way to remove it then at that point would be to go ahead and unclip it or actuate the rotating clip and then pull it out. You can pull it out without rotating it, but again, because there's so much retention on the clip, the gap between the clip and the handle is so small, it's really not something that you'd want to do. And, you know, to answer the question whether or not you get used to this, you get used to it rather quickly. I got used to it in a couple of days carrying the Sprint Run, to the point where actually, when I was carrying other knives, I was actually instinctively doing that kind of rotating action to take the knife out, even though obviously on a normal knife the clip wouldn't move. Found that kind of interesting when I realized I was doing that. But again, this ramp is also very helpful in getting that clip to ride over onto that detent, and something that you only see on the rotating clip mechanisms. On the custom division version that has a fixed clip, it's actually interesting to see that the ramp is on both sides of the clip, on the front and the back, instead of on the bottom. Of course, it doesn't need to be on the bottom since there's no rotating clip on the custom division version, but it does need to have those ramps, because with this concave handle design, there pretty much would be no retention if there wasn't kind of a hump, and also a slope on both the front and the back of the clip, so that you can, clip it onto something, sliding it in, and also remove it by sliding it out. So again, just very interesting variations. Very interesting to see that only the Sprint run is having that rotating clip system. But Sergey was saying it did add to the complexity of manufacturing, especially since that spring is actually integrated into the liner, which makes up the lock, that kind of inset lock design as well. We'll talk a little bit more about the lock design later. But again, very, very interesting system. You can even see here that the rotating clip is riding on both a pin that connects it to the leaf spring on the liner, but also a phosphor bronze washer. So you get that really nice, smooth action here with no play. One thing that I've also found is that the titanium clips on the full custom MiniQuantums have a lot more spring. I mean, this has been known. The bronze on the Sprint Run version, bronze is just not a very good clip material. It's not very springy, and so you get a very kind of sudden movement and snap onto the detent because the bronze has very little flex. Compare that to the titanium version or Mokutai or other titanium alloys that are being used on the full custom versions. It's much more easy to disengage and more easy for the ramp to push the clip up onto the ball, but you still get very secure clip movement. There's no rattling or anything like that. It's just the titanium being more springy is much more suited, I think, for this application than what we see with the bronze clip on the Sprint Run. Now, moving on to the pivot system here. Again, I kind of alluded that PLDS, this is the 2.0 variation. PLDS, Pivot Load Distribution System, is a new and novel way for integrating both the pivot screw and the washers into a design that allows you to basically set the height of the washer race relative to the blade, and so you're not having to worry about stacking tolerances when working with less rigid materials such as, say, G10 or carbon fiber or any other composite material. Now, this wasn't really a necessity with knives that have titanium handles. Coincidentally, this knife has titanium handles, but the PLDS technology, which has been developed for composite material handled knives, is also being used on the customs. Whether it's a flex or not, who knows? We've been seeing customs without PLDS recently, but some knives such as the Quantum NL full custom, MiniQuantum and the Taihatium have that PLDS system, even though it's unnecessary with those titanium handles. But anyways, basically what happens is without the PLDS, when you have carbon fiber handles and you have the washers that the bearings ride on, and you go ahead and you have the pivot screws and you tighten it down, you're basically also compressing the carbon fiber handles and flexing them a little bit as you tighten down that pivot screw. With the titanium or any other metal, it's more rigid, so you don't have as much flexing. But with the PLDS system, you actually integrate the washer bearing surface into the pivot screw, and the handles themselves are counterbored so that this pivot screw washer assembly goes all the way through to the other side of the handle. Of course, this side you see here is all for aesthetics, but on the other side of this screw is not a surface for a washer to ride on. but a counterbore surface that the bearings themselves ride on directly. These are press fit into the handle at a certain depth so that it can be controlled very precisely. And as you can see here, just like on this side, we have this retaining ring which serves as the PLDS face for the bearings. But then the screw here, actually, the shoulder of this smaller screw in the middle here sits on that PLDS kind of washer integrated screw face itself instead of the handle. So what this means is that when the screw is tightened down, it's putting pressure on the PLDS faces and not the handle. So if these handles were composite material, this tightening down the screw would not put any pressure on the carbon fiber itself. Again, this helps to alleviate any issues with tolerance stacking, and it's quite a novel way of handling the issue. Of course, much more needed on a knife such as the Custom Division Hati Magnetic, which uses a composite carbo tie material. Anyways, long story short, a lot of really cool tech here. 2.0, what's the difference? Well, 1.0 did have some issues with kind of minimal screw engagement. The 2.0 has a sub screw underneath this screw here. It actually interfaces with I think like a 5/32 inch hex bit, and that basically screws down the handle of the blade to the handle and acts as the pivot shaft. You then have this smaller screw that goes on top of that middle screw, and that basically locks down the entire assembly. We've seen similar designs to this on the F95 anniversary knife with the washer system, and some of the older Shirogrove knives that had this kind of smaller screw setup as well. Coincidentally, what this does is it eliminates the need for Loctite, because the screw underneath here basically secures the blade by having a pivot shaft go through, and then you lock down that screw by inserting this screw on top of it, and that's that screw that you see on top here. A little bit complex to explain. I'm actually going to see if I can attach a picture to the descriptions to, maybe further explain what it is that's actually going on inside. Take a look if you're interested. A lot of really cool tech in this knife. But moving on, the pivot system, of course, is double row roller bearings. This being the micro roller version with those 1mm ceramic tungsten rollers, really small rollers, and of course to fit the PLDS technology into a knife this thin really necessitates the need for those micro rollers. Moving on to the back spacer here, you can see we have this really beautiful Ticron. It does seem to have the zirconium in it as well, so this is more closer to, say, Zircutai or black Timascus than normal Timascus or Mokutai. Again, very thin to match the blade stock thickness, and you can see here, just like on the original Quantum as well, we have kind of that floating back spacer design here. Really nice. Moving on to the inside here, you can see we have the Shirogrove logo, just like the tiniest Shirogrove logo on kind of the satin flat portion of the inside of the back spacer. Also, just like a Neon, have this little groove here that kind of captures the knife to kind of show off the centering here. Really nice design that we're really seeing pretty much on every Shirogrove knife now. RQ36, Neons, pretty much every knife is really showing it off with this kind of nice back spacer here. That also, again, acts as a guard so that you are not cutting yourself, because all Shirogrove knives have just an incredible blade to handle ratio. Of course, just like the other MiniQuantums, this is an inset lock. You can see here that this is a titanium piece that runs basically all the way through the knife, all the way to the back actually, because again, that is where the leaf spring is integrated to actuate the rotating clip system here. And if you actually take a look at the right side here of the back spacer, you can actually see as you push down on the clip, it actuates, basically acts as a lever to push on the leaf spring that is, again, integrated into the same part of the liner that acts as the lock here up front. So really cool. And, you know, I was really thinking how complex this knife was on the inside when I first saw it, but seeing just how Sergey has really made use of this liner on both sides is really cool. But otherwise, a very similar design to the Stellar. But unlike the Stellar, where the lock side is kind of screwed into the same side of the handle that it's on, the left side here, the way that the liner on the MiniQuantum is secured is actually it's pinned to the backspacer. So the side that actually holds the inset lock actually just comes off freely. And after you take off this handle, the lock is still attached to the backspacer and the right or the left side of the handle here. So very interesting design. Of course, some other design niceties as well on this liner lock. We have this nice jimping here that we do see on the Custom Division, but not the Sprint Run version. And just like the Custom Division version, we also have a satin finish on that steel liner as well. Very nice. Taking a look at the internal handle milling, you can see there is very generous milling as well on the inside here. If I can get the light in, you can see just how wide those pockets are, but again, helping to contribute to that weight reduction for the knife. And just like the full-size Quantum as well, you can see here the handle kind of tapers up again, just to kind of emphasize that blade centering and give that illusion of, or help emphasize that, not really an illusion, the blade is really thin, but to help emphasize that blade thinness. But that's pretty much it for the MiniQuantum. Again, this video ran quite a long 26 minutes, but to kind of rehash some of the other concepts that I talked about with the rotating clip and also the PLDS system as well is really cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and hope you guys have a great day.